Hey you guys. Some people have gotten started on audience and purpose, and they've had a little bit of trouble designating the difference between primary audience and secondary audience. So I just wanted to go over this graphic here on the slide. Again, this is something that I usually do in a small group in class. And whenever you copy this graphic into your notebook, you can also kind of make these notes on your note. Make these notes on your notes? Yes. Add this information to your notes so that you have this to kind of study and prepare before you take your test. So this target here on this graphic is kind of a visual representation of what you're thinking about when you think about primary audience and secondary audience. So your primary audience is like the bullseye of the target. Those are the people that you are talking directly to, right? They are your direct target. So they're the people that you are creating the message in order to target those people, and in order to persuade them or convince them or inform them or entertain them, whatever your purpose is behind what you're doing. So this second word here where it says stakeholder, a stakeholder, you guys are learning in U.S. history, at the beginning of the year, you talked about westward expansion. And in westward expansion, when people in the United States moved west and they claimed the land, they would literally have a stake, like a little wooden stick, basically, a stake, that they would like stake into the ground, that they would like pound into the ground in order to claim their land. They were a stakeholder in that land because they owned it now. They could make decisions about it, build on it, sell it, etc. So that word has kind of like evolved over time so that if you are a stakeholder, then you own a stake. You have a say in the decision. You have a claim in the property, in the decision, in the information that is there. So the primary audience, they are stakeholders. They have a stake, they have an ownership, they have a responsibility with that information, and you're targeting them so that they can make a decision, or so that they can be persuaded by your decision. Because those are the people, this bottom part, those are the people that can take action. They can actually do something about your issue, right? So let's say you wanted to change the dress code for all of the high schools. You would need to target, your primary audience would be the school board, because that's who makes those decisions. They are your direct target, they are the stakeholders, and they can take action on that issue, right? You need to appeal and speak directly to that audience of people. But then you also have a secondary audience, and that's like the outer circles of the target. Those people are indirect. Your information isn't aimed at those people because they probably can't do anything about it, right? If you're trying to change the dress code, me as a teacher, I would be a secondary audience person. I could maybe help you. I'm kind of interested in your issue because I don't want to enforce dress code rules that don't ever get followed. So I might be able to benefit from your information, right? Your fellow students might be able to benefit from your information if they want a different dress code as well. So your secondary audience is like the other people, the other observers that might be like eavesdropping or listening in, or they might be able to help you, right? You might be able to bring them over to your side in order to help convince more of that primary audience of your information or your idea that you're trying to persuade them about. Okay, so knowing that they are indirect, they're kind of interested, they may benefit, but they're not your target audience. They're not the stakeholders who can actually take action on that issue. So then the other piece of that you're thinking about is what appeals are going to help you reach that target audience, that primary audience. So if you are targeting the school board, you might want to have some statistics. You might want to have a survey from students. You might want to have some personal anecdotes from students. So thinking about what appeals could you use? Would you use logos? Would you use pathos? Maybe a combination? How would you appeal to that primary audience? Me as a teacher, if I'm giving a presentation to other teachers, I need to think about my appeals that I'm using in order to convince my audience. And then last, you need to think about the sources that you use, right? So if you are, that's like objective 3. So if you are, objective 4. So if you are, again, targeting the school board, your sources, you would want to use like relevant sources. You would want to use sources that are credible sources. So if you just say like, oh, I found this on YouTube, you might not convince that audience because it's an audience of adults. So they might not believe or put much credibility in just like something that you found on YouTube. But if you use like a journal of psychiatry, or you used a source that was talking about how changing the dress code has led to better engagement in schools, and it's from like an Education Weekly source, from an education journal, those sources might be more credible to your target audience. So whenever you're thinking about what source is being used, think about the purpose behind what you're trying to do, the audience that that's targeting, and then would that source be a relevant source? Would it be credible? Is there any bias there? Is that source trying to like make you lean a certain direction or believe a certain opinion? Or is it unbiased where it's just presenting facts and kind of like neutral in the middle of the road? Okay, so hopefully this will help you as you are working on your audience and purpose focus area.